Welcome back to another episode of Underground Intel. I'm coming to you here from an undisclosed location deep within the sewer to bring you this week's biggest gaming news. And first up, boys, we got this story. Asha Sharma went to Bethesda Game Studios in Rockville, Maryland. She was there to check out a live viewing of the progress they've made so far on the new Elder Scrolls 6. And this is what she had to say about it. She said, "The scale and grandeur is incredible, and that the story is even greater." But that's not why we're talking about this story. I mean, whoop-de-woo, Asha says Elder Scrolls 6 looks amazing. But she would have said that even if she went there and the game looked like trash, and she had to pull out the belt and give Todd another whooping. I'm not saying she's lying about the game looking great, but she's the CEO of Xbox, so of course she's gonna say that. I honestly hope Elder Scrolls 6 is amazing, just as much as everybody else does, but I gotta be honest, Starfield really sucked. Let's pray that the Scrolls franchise is being taken a little more seriously. I wouldn't worry though, boys. I'm sure it is, knowing how big of a series it is for the studio, especially with Asha the Executioner salivating at the idea of gutting them some more, so I'm pretty sure they're taking it serious. But there's another part of this story that's far more entertaining. Check this shit out, boys. So apparently, the CWA union workers staged this dumbass protest by, get this boys, deploying an inflatable rat that they call Scabby. Which I guess is meant to be some derogatory term for someone who's undermining the union's actions, I guess, or whatever. They put it outside the office with a sea of red flags, and I'm not kidding here. Each flag was to represent a person that was laid off by Xbox, like they're some kind of fallen soldiers or something. I mean, can these people get any more ridiculous? But wait, boys, it actually gets better. Apparently, they started putting up posters around the office and were immediately told by management that they couldn't put anything on the outside of their cubicle. So instead, they brought balloons, and I quote, "so that they could see we were here. But this time, we made sure that the balloons were in our cubicles." And the funny thing is that these people actually think that Xbox leadership cares about some stupid inflatable rat and some balloons. Like somehow it's gonna reverse the layoffs? Asha's gonna see it and just say, "Oh my god, what have I done? I've made a mistake. Hire everybody back immediately." No, she probably just walked past it and went into the meeting. I mean, have these people lost their minds? I mean, I know the answer. Yeah, they have. And if they got laid off, it's probably for a good reason, to be honest. You gotta trim the fat off this hog before it rots to death. I gotta be honest. So apparently the CWA union announced coordinated Save the Dev rallies across the United States and Canada. And get this, boys, they plan to live stream the whole thing. So you know your boy's gonna have to check it out and clown on him a bit, so stay tuned for that. Okay boys, so for our next story, we're going to be talking about Amazon games and how they're effectively getting out of the MMO publishing business for good. It looks like Amazon's grand experiment into MMOs is pretty much over at this point, because Amazon Games is now handing off publishing duties for both Lost Ark and Throne and Liberty. And considering how aggressively Amazon went after this market just a few years ago, it's actually pretty crazy. Starting in early 2027, Amazon will transfer publishing and live operations for Lost Ark back to its original developers, Smilegate. And Throne and Liberty is going back to NC, with that transfer taking place later this year. Now, importantly, neither game is actually shutting down. They're just simply cutting Amazon out of the equation and returning back to the companies that actually made them. And then there's New World, Amazon's very own MMO. The game has already been pulled from sales, and the servers are set to shut down in January 2027. So I think it's safe to say, boys, Amazon's experiment into MMOs is officially over. And the part I find interesting is that Amazon didn't just dip their toes in gaming. They came in with a fucking giant hammer made out of money. They built studios, they hired developers, they spent years developing New World, they partnered with some of the biggest MMO developers in Korea, they published Lost Ark in the West, they published Throne and Liberty, and at one point, they were even developing a massive Lord of the Rings MMO. Amazon had the money, they had the infrastructure, they had the recognizable games and IPs, and yet somehow they still couldn't turn this into a sustainable MMO business. And maybe that tells us something about the MMO market itself, because making an MMO isn't just expensive, you're basically signing up to operate a game forever. You need servers, constant updates, expansions, new content, community management, customer service, balancing, anti-cheat, and most importantly, you need players who keep coming back, because an MMO without a healthy player base becomes a ghost town pretty damn quickly. And Amazon learned that the hard way with New Worlds. I thought it was pretty good, and the game exploded when it launched, but it had underlying problems. And getting millions of people to try your game isn't the hard part. Getting people to stick with it years later is. That doesn't mean that Amazon is getting out of gaming entirely. They're still involved in many other projects. But the era where Amazon wanted to become one of the major players in the MMO space, it looks like it's officially over, boys. And there's something almost ironic watching one of the richest companies in the world discover the same lessons countless developers learned before them. And that is, you can't just throw money at an MMO and manufacture the next World of Warcraft. Amazon tried. They spent years doing it. But now, they're handing the games back to the developers and walking away. So maybe the real question isn't why is Amazon leaving MMOs? Maybe it's why the hell did Amazon think it was going to be so easy in the first place? Okay, for our next story, apparently Amazon isn't the only company reconsidering exactly what the hell they're doing in gaming, because Netflix just announced that it's closing 2 more of its gaming studios. First up is Night School Studios, the developers behind Oxenfree. I'm sure most of you have never heard of it. I know I hadn't before looking into this news, but let me spare you boys. It looks like a straight up stinkerooski. 100% don't recommend. I mean, I looked into the studio, and it's based in Los Angeles, and the people working there came from Disney Interactive and Telltale Games, so basically not even a real studio to begin with. The studio said they were focused on player-driven narratives, emphasizing conversational dialogue systems and emotionally grounded players. So it's no wonder they're being shut down, to be honest, boys. And apparently, they had just released their newest game, Unhinged. And the Netflix CEO praised it during an investor call, saying it had really good numbers. Then, 6 weeks later, they're closing down the studio. Netflix is also shutting down Moonloot, its studio in Helsinki, and cutting additional positions across its gaming division. And this isn't the first time we've seen Netflix pull back. They already closed their big AAA studio back in 2024. They shut down Boss Fight Entertainment last year. They sold Spry Fox back to its founders. And now Night School and Moonloot are gone too. Netflix says it still sees opportunity in gaming, but clearly their strategies are changing. And when you put this together with what's happening with Amazon Games, it looks like there's a bigger story happening here. Netflix and Amazon have spent years trying to establish themselves in the gaming space. Both basically have unlimited money compared to most game companies, and yet both have discovered the same thing. Having a shitload of money doesn't necessarily mean that you know how to make or manage a video game. Amazon is walking away from the MMO business, Netflix is closing studios and changing direction, and maybe that's the real lesson here. Breaking into the gaming industry is a hell of a lot harder than some of these companies thought it was going to be. So Gears of War E-Day finally added something to the series that somehow took almost 20 years, and that's a jump button. And if any of you boys have ever played Gears of War multiplayer, then I think you know where this is going. The Coalition changed the traditional wall bouncing system for E-Day, presumably trying to make movement a little less ridiculous. So they gave Gears players the ability to jump. Yeah, well, it took the community a whole 5 minutes to figure out how to start launching themselves off of walls instead. So congratulations, Coalition. You may have finally killed the wall bounce, only to create the wall jump. And honestly, I hope they just leave it in. So something weird just happened with GTA 6 on Netflix. A listing reportedly showing 3 separate entries for the upcoming GTA 6 extended look appeared on Netflix in Portugal. And if those listings were real, the combined runtime would be well over an hour, and then they disappear. Now, Rockstar hasn't confirmed that the extended look will be in 3 parts, and there's already debates over whether the original screenshot is even legitimate in the first place. Either Netflix accidentally showed us that Rockstar's got a lot more GTA 6 footage coming than we expected, or the internet just managed to manufacture another GTA 6 leak out of thin air. Either way, August 27th just got a little more interesting. Oh shit, boys, looks like we got another transmission coming to us here in the sewer. Okay, it's time for the sewer scroll, where we check out a couple of the funniest things I've seen in the gaming community this week. And today's special guest, everybody's favorite clown these days, none other than Todd Howard. Okay boys, first up we got this meme. Oh my. That's Todd and Asha at the meeting over Elder Scrolls 6. Okay, next up we got this. It's Asha. Okay, next up we got this one. Todd, get to work. You better get to work now, damn it. Okay, and last up we got this one. Todd hoping Asha doesn't look too deep under the covers of Elder Scrolls 6. Looks like we got another transmission coming to us here in the sewer. Okay, next up we're gonna get into a little GTA story speculation. And this one, it comes to us from the GTA forums on page 132. Okay boys, so today's speculation, it's all about surveillance cameras. I think cameras and surveillance tech should or will play a major role in GTA 6, or at least in future iterations, as I just found out today that my city, Atlanta, is most heavily surveilled city in the world outside of China. We're the first rollout of the network, flock. We have interior, exterior door cameras, license plate readers, drones, robot dogs, power pole, and high-mounted sky cams with 360 view of an entire complex neighborhoods, highway cams, and all of them are linked to police integrated mesh network. Honestly, I'm horrified. Yeah, it's kind of terrible. If cameras and surveillance tech does play a big role, it's fair to say that the gameplay would be a bit more stealth-orientated this time. My biggest hope for the story and gameplay is that they actually modernize the wanted system. I'm really hoping Vice City's surveillance, plate scanners, and cameras make escaping cops a legitimate challenge where you're forced to swap cars and outfits mid-chase, similar to how RDR2 handled regional bounties. Also really hoping that intro acts drop us straight into fast-paced chaos. Okay, that's gonna do it for this week's episode of Underground Intel. Bethesda developers are protesting, Amazon is pulling back from gaming, Netflix closed down more studios. But now I want to hear from you boys. What was the biggest story this week? And if I missed something that deserves to be on the board for next week's episode, let me know down in the comments. And if you enjoyed the episode, don't forget to hit the like and subscribe button. And I'll see you boys back down here next week for another episode of Underground Intel. And stay tuned for the next investigation. Until next time, stay based, boys.